All right, we're going to dive into a legal battle that gets right to the heart of a question a lot of us have probably thought about, but very few have had the chance or the nerve to fight in a federal court. It all boils down to one simple, powerful question.
Sounds simple, right? Well, the answer is anything but. And it's the exact question that pushed one coach to take on the entire City University of New York. So let's get into her story. You see, this isn't just a case about the numbers on a paycheck. It's really a story about respect, about equality, and about the long, hard fight to be valued for your work, no matter your gender. Okay, so our story kicks off with Molly Perdue, who was the head women's basketball coach at Brooklyn College.
So get this, Molly Perdue was basically pulling double duty. She's the head coach, but she's also an administrator. And her lawsuit claimed that in both of these jobs, she was consistently getting the short end of the stick compared to the men. And we're talking less pay, yeah, for sure. But it was also about worse resources and just flat out tougher working conditions. Now, to fight this, you can't just walk into court and say, hey, this isn't fair. Her legal team had to use some very specific tools, a playbook of federal laws that were designed for exactly this kind of situation. All right, so in that legal playbook, there were two main plays. First, you've got the Equal Pay Act, or EPA. Think of this one as super direct. You just can't pay a woman less than a man for doing the same job. The really key thing here, you don't have to prove why they did it, just that they did it. Then you've got Title VII. This one's way broader. It covers all kinds of discrimination. But with Title VII, well, that's a tougher hill to climb. You have to prove it was intentional, that there was a real gender-based motive behind it all. Okay, so for that Equal Pay Act claim to actually work, Purdue's team had to prove three things. It's kind of like a checklist. First, was she paid less than a man? Check. Second, were their jobs pretty much the same in terms of skill, effort, and responsibility? And third, did they work under similar conditions? Now, it might sound straightforward, but that second point, proving equal work, that's where these cases often get really complicated. And then there's the Title VII claim. This is where the stakes get even higher. It wasn't just about showing things were different. Her team had to prove to a jury that this wasn't some accident or a simple oversight. They had to paint a picture showing that the only logical conclusion for how she was treated was intentional, deliberate discrimination because she was a woman. All right, so the legal strategy is set and the case goes to trial. Let's look at the actual evidence the jury saw, the stuff that brought these claims to life. And wow, this is where things get really, really clear. Just look at these numbers. In a single year, Perdue made almost $67,000 less than her two male counterparts combined. And it wasn't a fluke. The next year, the gap got even bigger. This isn't a rounding error we're talking about. It's a chasm, and it was all right there in black and white. But you know what? It wasn't just about the money. Not even close. Testimony laid out this whole pattern of unequal treatment. Her office, described as a broom closet. Meanwhile, the men's coach got two offices. Team laundry, she was expected to do it herself. When the men's coach refused, they just gave him a manager to take care of it. From cleaning her own gym to having smaller budgets and less staff, the evidence just kept piling up, painting a picture of two completely different worlds for the men's and women's teams. And this is where you really feel the human cost of all this. On the stand, Perdue just laid it out there, describing the emotional weight of it all. This wasn't some legal argument. This was her telling the jury exactly what it feels like to be treated as less than. But then came the bombshell, the piece of evidence that just might have sealed the deal. When a committee actually pointed out all these inequalities, the athletic director's response was reportedly, "Let the women sue." Just think about that. That single line suggested this wasn't an accident. It sounded like a conscious decision to just let the problem fester. So, after all that testimony, all that evidence, it was up to the jury. But as you're about to see, the verdict wasn't the end of the story, not by a long shot. And the verdict came in. It was a total win for Molly Perdue. The jury sided with her on both claims. They agreed she was paid less for equal work, and they believed the university intentionally discriminated against her. But wait, the jury wasn't done. They also found that CUNY's violation was willful, and this is so important. It means the jury believed this wasn't just an oopsie. They believed the university either knew what they were doing was illegal or just didn't care. Legally, that's a game changer because it can automatically double certain damages. You'd think that's the end, right? Nope, the fight was far from over.
CUNY's lawyers immediately fired back, filing motions to get the whole verdict tossed out, arguing there wasn't enough evidence. This legal fight was officially going into overtime. Okay, so how does this all shake out financially in the end? Well, the judge denied CUNY's motions and said the verdict stands. So then came the final step, adding it all up and figuring out exactly what Molly Perdue was owed. All right, let's start with the back pay. The court calculated the salary difference over those couple of years, and it came to just under $135,000. This was the foundation, the money she should have been paid all along.
But that was just the starting point of the math.
Now, remember that whole willful violation thing? Well, this is where it really kicks in. The law requires an equal amount in something called liquidated damages. So, boom, another $134,000 gets stacked right on top as a penalty for the university's conduct. And finally, on top of all that, you add in the awards for emotional distress, unpaid benefits, interest, and this is a huge one, the legal fees for this whole long fight. And it all adds up to this final number. But look at this chart. 45%, nearly half of the entire award, was just to cover the cost of the legal battle itself. That shows you what it really takes to fight something like this. Which brings us to the grand total. The final judgment against the university was nearly $800,000. A really powerful statement from the court about the real cost of discrimination. So Molly Perdue's case, it was a huge deal. It set a powerful precedent. But it also leaves us with this big question hanging in the air. Her fight shined a light on the inequality on one campus in one department. And it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many other scoreboards out there in all kinds of jobs are still completely unbalanced? And what's it going to take to finally even the score?